Hello everyone, I'm Genie, and today we are going to take a look at a pretty different type of video that I've never done before, and I'm finding it quite difficult to make actually. So, we're talking about a tier list that people have been asking me to do about expeditions, and it's harder than it looks to do it because, when you were talking about expeditions, a lot of different things come into place. You need to consider a lot of different things. So we are going to start talking about that, and I'm gonna address as well some other questions that people made in regards to expeditions. I'm gonna show you guys the tier list, and I'm gonna give you some examples on how the picks affect themselves in all those good stuffs. So I think you're going to like the video. So yeah, let's get to it. Okay, so first I would like to address a question that a subscriber have asked about this website right here, which shows some type of tier list about expeditions, and I'm gonna address why I don't think this is a very good website for that. Because you see, as I said earlier, when you're talking about expeditions, we need to be considering a lot of things, right? This website, as far as I'm concerned, it evaluates card by card, and you should not be doing that. Because, for instance, yes, there will be situations that, picking a card is going to be extremely important. For example, let's say that you don't have any judgment onto your deck, and you decide that it's not showing there. Okay, you decide that you need it because it's a very powerful card indeed, and it can, it can make a losing situation turn out to be a winning situation. But then again, this is not an S card in my opinion. In my ranking system, it goes a little bit like S card is pretty much a card that you don't skip. Like, you see it, you kind of have to take it, right? It's a card that translate into a lot of wins, and for example, you need only one judgment. Yes, it's a very good card, but sometimes it's not the right pick, and depending on your deck, it's definitely not the right pick. Another reason why, for instance, why I think this is wrong, let's take for example this. They are putting Nautilus into a B tier plan, a B minus tier, and I don't agree with this. I think this couldn't be further from the truth, because for instance, okay, Nautilus is a pretty weak champion if you look at him and only at him, and by weak I mean you're using 7 mana to put him down. That's a lot. That's pretty much one whole turn that you played, and on the end game that you played only one card. So if you're very behind on board, you're probably gonna lose that turn because you're not gonna be able to block. And if you're attacking, you're probably gonna get blocked and gonna suffer a very big retaliation on the next round. But when you pick Nautilus, you're picking an archetype, and we're going to talk more about that later. You're picking an archetype that will bring you a lot of deep sea monsters, and that's huge because when Nautilus is leveled up and you have a lot of sea monsters in hand, you've pretty much won the game. It's that simple. So Nautilus, in my opinion, is an S tier champion. Every time I see him, I pick him, and I don't leave the expedition with less than six wins. Wow, it's like 5 if I'm extremely unlucky, because he's insane. This guy is huge. Like, so yeah, this is not a B minus for at all. Like, so that's why I think that okay, you can use it, because for instance, Joe Hunters is very good. Okay, I give you that. So even though this list is quite good, I think, for example, Hired Gun is not only B minus. This is one of the best 2 drops in the game. So I think that even though this list is useful, you should not take it like as a guaranteed 100% thing you should follow. Just get it, and I'll leave the link in the description for those of you who wants to see it. And yeah, that's all I'm gonna say about this list. Okay guys, so now I'm gonna leave you with a very good website. So for those of you who are not familiarized with the archetypes and what are in it, and this is a very important website, not only because it shows you exactly what cards you will be seeing in each archetype, but also because it brings you a lot of a very, very important information, and it's about these two rating systems right here. Not rating systems, but you will understand what I'm talking about. So for cohesiveness rating, for example, and these are two things that the devs take into consideration when they are tweaking expedition modes. So cohesiveness rating is pretty much exactly what it's talking about. So for cohesiveness, right? Some archetypes, as it says here, are very dependent on one another. Cohesiveness rating is a tuning value that allows us to control how quickly a particular archetype will be disallowed from showing up in wild picks when your deck doesn't include any cards from that archetype, since you would be highly unlikely to be interested in them anyway. So this means that, let's say that you're picking Shroom and Boom, for example, right? And then all of a sudden they start throwing you cards for an archetype that has nothing to do with it, like for example Mayokai, for instance, right? Or Callista. This is not going to happen because they know, so for example, let's say that your first pick is Shroom and Boom. They know what you're going for. Since it has nothing to do with the type of deck you're playing, it's very unlikely that it's gonna show up, because you're unlikely to be interested in them anyway. This is a very interesting rating. So for example, cohesiveness here is high. So for instance, let's say that you're not playing a Shroom and Boom deck. It's unlikely. It gets lower and lower the the chance that you're going to see this archetype if you're not playing anything that is related to it. Wild pick bonus chance is pretty much the opposite. So for instance, let's say that you're Shroom and Boom again, since it's high, right? Wild pick bonus chance is something that will make you see more of the archetype, because if it's high, it probably means that the archetype is highly dependable on synergy, right? So for instance, let's take Teemo right here, right? Teemo is extremely dependent on Puffcat Peddlers and on Clump of Wumps and on Chump Wump, to generate those mushrooms to make him strong. So the more you pick Shroom and Boom, the more you will see Shroom and Boom, because the system understands that you're going for a deck that is highly dependable on synergy, so they kind of help you out with that. Right, so this is a very important thing to keep in mind, because you should not be deviating too much on what you're trying to do as a game plan for winning your matches, because if you do, you will end up with a deck that is not very reliable. With a deck that has too much of too many things, and this means that the system, the expedition system is not gonna be sure of what they should show you, right? Because your deck has too much of too much, right? So they don't know exactly what to show you. They don't know how to make your deck good, right? What options they can show you. So they're gonna start showing you random things. That's why you should pick a plan and stick to it until the end, pretty much, and you only go for wild picks, which they are going to show you, regardless of how, at least once or twice they're going to show you some wild picks, which are going to be very reliable cards. For example, removal and stuff like that you can kind of deviate a little bit from your path, but then you go back at it as soon as possible. So yeah, let's go for the tier list right now. I'm not going to talk too much about the archetypes themselves, because they're going to be very subjective. I may not like an archetype that is useful because someone tested it out, and even though I like expeditions quite a lot and I play it quite a lot, I can't tell you that I've tested every single thing, every single archetype, because this would be bullshit. This would be a lie. I believe that I don't believe that anyone is an expert on every archetype. I think that we kind of focus on what our play style, you know, suits our best interest. So yeah, let's go for the tier list on the champions right now, and I'm gonna explain a little bit how that works. And yeah, let's go. Okay, now before I show you the actual tier list, I would like to first declare some things. This is based on my experiences. And even though I'm a very experienced player at expeditions, even though this is based on my experience, this is based on my opinion, this is what works for me, this is what works for my playstyle. Maybe something different works for you, so this is not a universal truth. Like, if you have a different opinion than mine, perhaps you should just put it in the comments, and we'll be glad to have different opinions perhaps, and or maybe you can change my mind. I'm very open about that as well. So let's get to it. Here at S rank I have some champions that they're pretty much, and when I put this here, first let's explain that, right? What's the criteria for this list? S rank is our champions that I know that I'm going to pick. They're gonna be very solid picks, not only because of the archetype that they're in, but they also bring a lot of value. So for instance, let's say Sejuani, right? This is a freaking monster. Like, her ability alone is bonkers. She freezes and removes something for free, pretty much. That's without even leveling up. She's actually crazy. The archetype that she's in, like the battle scars and the other one, is also very good. It's very synergistic with her. She's amazing. And Israel is a very, very strong champion as well. It brings him, it's very easy to go 5, 6, 7 wins with him, because he brings so much to the table. Being elusive, not having a one health, and creating mystic shots while he attacks, he's actually very good as well. It's not difficult to make a deck around him, because once you pick him, the game starts throwing a lot of spells at you, so it's very easy. Nautilus, as I said previously, a lot of deep sea monsters, right? So for me, he's S rank. If you have a different opinion, then hey, such is life, right? But the archetype that he's in, the synergy that he has with deep sea monsters, I mean, for me, he's just very good. He's just fantastic. I always pick him when I see him. Always pick him. Now, for A tier, you may think, okay, but what about A tier though? Okay, so for A tier, I've got some different criteria. So let's say all these champions are either champions that are very synergistic with other cards, or they bring a lot of value on their own as well. So maybe they're not as synergistic as an S tier deck, but they are also very, very powerful. So for example, there are cards that when you play them, your opponent goes, oh shit, what now, right? It's that type of feeling. Like, for example, Darius, right? He levels up when your opponent is below 10 health. So that's done, right? That's the idea of playing the game, is getting your opponent with lower health. So he levels up pretty easily, and when you drop him is a lot of value. He can pretty much win the game when you drop him in the right circumstances. Lux is the same thing. When you play Lux, your enemy knows that he's on the clock, right? Because it's not difficult to level up her. It's not difficult to level Lux up. She has a very synergistic deck to build around her. What's his name again? Garen. He has a very, very powerful effect, which is regenerating health. This is very good in expeditions, because removal is not that prevalent. People have to work with what they get, right? So regenerating health at the end of the turn is fantastic. Braum is the same thing, but the difference is, even though Garen, yes, he has a very synergistic deck as well with the Bannerman and the elites, Braum, one subscriber brought to my knowledge that actually playing Poro, flooding the board with Poros and whatnot, is very, very good, and I was quite surprised at that. But then he started showing me pictures of that, and it really works. I'm gonna try that as well, because it seems a lot of fun. And he got 7 wins quite frequently, 6 wins with Poros, so that's pretty amazing, and it really makes sense. And Braum on his own is actually very good. Like, he's a very difficult unit to kill. He's an excellent blocker for 3 mana, right? 0/5 that has he regenerates health, and he has so much synergy with other cards, like for example, take hearts and other cards that buff damage. Like, he brings so much value to the table, is actually insane. The same goes for all these other cards, pretty much. Like, when you play them, your enemy knows that he's in trouble, and Twisted Fate is here because yes, he is kind of easy to remove, but he brings so much utility. Like, he is pretty much bonkers. I don't pick him every time I see him, but still, he's so solid. Like, you can draw a card, you can deal 1 to everything and activate Plunder, you can stun the strongest enemy, and if he levels up, you pretty much win the game. There is nothing else to be said about that. So he's actually insane as well. And Evia is the same thing, right? But then you would have to build a deck differently. Vi is the same thing as always. She is actually still very powerful. You don't really build around her, but every deck that you put her, she will perform very well. She will perform to a very good degree. At B tier, I have champions that they need cards to support him. They don't really work alone, right? And they are not that strong. So for instance, you may think, okay, but Vlad is buffed now, right? Yeah, but he still hurts your surroundings. He still hurts your units, and this can be very problematic. Yasuo needs stuns, and this can be a problem because without stuns, he's just a 5/5 when he levels up, right? And maybe if you, for instance, the most strong thing that you can get for stunning is Minotaur Reckoner. I'm probably gonna show the card right now on the screen. And it's a Noxus card, it's not an Ionia card. So this, building around him can be quite difficult. But all these can be strong on their deck. So for instance, if you used to win a lot with Draven, I see a lot of people winning with Draven. This doesn't mean that he's weak, as I said earlier. It just means that I don't believe that he is as good as an S tier deck, for example, or even those. But they can be, for instance, and the thing is, Braum, like, people don't really give him credit, but he's fantastic. So yeah, these cards may work, but I think they're more reliable on synergy. They're more reliable on a better tuned, better crafted deck to make them work, right? Now, we have a C tier, which I don't believe they're good. So for instance, why don't I believe these cards are good? And maybe I'm wrong about Jinx, but why? Okay, so we have Lee Sin, for example. Lee Sin, leveling him up is not enough. Every turn you will need at least 1 spell to make him work, and this is not good in my opinion. So all these cards, they don't work alone at all, like at all. So for instance, let's say, and maybe I'm wrong about Jinx, I'm actually thinking about putting her up here on B. Yeah, she's pretty much the same thing as Draven, right? Yeah, but for instance, let's say Shen. He has a support ability, and if you don't have a way to protect Shen, he's going to die. Even though he got buffed and whatnot, he still needs to support, and I've lost to people playing Shen already, but they had such a strong synergy going on that it was pretty much a constructed deck that they were playing, and I don't see that happening very often. So, and you need to get lucky with your draws as well. This is a very unreliable card. The same goes for everyone, even for Lucian, because it's and then again, I've seen people winning with Lucian, so maybe he's not as bad as I think, but still I think that removing him is way too easy. And to make him work, for instance, let's say that you want to activate the Raleigh, right? The second, when he leveled up, the first unit that dies, then you Raleigh and you get to attack again. Yeah, but you need a unit to die that turn. That may not be that easy to accomplish, that without hurting yourself. So the same goes for everything else around here. And why do I think these are D tier, right? Because you say, okay, Genie, but then again, D tier is too low, my dude. You need to have a reason for that. And yes, I do. So let's say Teemo, right? Teemo is a 1-1 that needs mushrooms to work, and even though he may work, he gets very slow. He's very easy to remove. Any removal kills Teemo. Pretty much any removal kills Teemo. So he's extremely unreliable. Playing around him, you know, building a deck around him is so bad in my opinion. It's not even worth it. Maybe you win. If you've won a lot with Teemo, then hey, props to you. I don't see myself doing that, honestly. I don't know, maybe I need to test him, but I think he's so bad, I just don't like picking him. Maokai. But then you may think, okay, Genie, but Maokai, come on, Maokai, I don't know how the hell people say his name. Now, he's a little bit different. The reason why I think he's D tier and why I avoid picking him. So, let's say that you're playing, for him to work, you need to either toss 25 units, you know, for you to burn the enemy deck, or you need to have 10 of your own units die for him to work. Now, this may look okay, that's doable, but in reality it's not. On the first games, you will be with reducted cards. You will not have a full set of cards. You will have, how much is it? I think it's half, right? It's probably 25 cards. So it's something like that as far as I can remember. So, you know, you will be burning your deck way too fast. You're not going to be able to make use out of him. And leveling him up early on is not going to be that good. It's not going to be that reliable. You're probably not even going to be able to do that. I have never done that. Even when playing... Okay, if you got Nautilus, it's justifiable to pick him. But I've never leveled him up, like in early games, right? And I've played him. I've played with him. So I think that picking him on the first picks is nuts. You were pretty screwed if you do that. Honestly, like, I don't think it's a good pick. And Fizz, I don't think he's strong enough for you to pick him and make him work. Perhaps he's some... you may pick him as a sort of distraction to the enemy, but I don't see him pulling a win for you, for instance. He has 1 health. He doesn't deal a lot of damage. As Lee Sin, he needs low-cost cards for him to work. It's not only spells, right? It's low-cost spells, so this kind of complicates a little bit how you should build a deck. So yeah, guys, I think I covered it all up. I don't really have much to talk about. If you have a different opinion than mine, that's fine. That's completely fine. And if you want to share your opinion, feel free to do it in the comments. Like, if I put some of your favorite champions below here, don't feel offended. Like, I don't think that the champions are trash, or at least the majority of them. They're solid champions, but I don't see them being as good as the rest. Right, for me, this is what have been working the best. So yeah, don't forget to subscribe. Leave a comment down below with your thoughts, right? Because I'm sure that you may have a different thought than mine, and maybe I forgot something, because it's very difficult to make a guide like this on expeditions because there's so much to cover. And leave a like. And by the way, we have a Discord channel right now, so if you would like to participate on the Discord channel, just hop in. I'm gonna leave the link on the description. And yeah, thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed it, and see ya.